Hi, I'm Paul Francis. I'm the Director of Research and Development, and I want to thank you for joining us today and welcome live from the Zildjian Sound Lab. This is our first webcast event for Z Club members only, and we're hoping to do many more of these in the coming months and years and try to teach you as much as possible as we can with regard to Zildjian cymbals. So today what we're going to talk about is how the cup affects the pitch and the volume and sustain and overtones of the cymbals. But before we get into the cup and what it does, how do we get the cup into the cymbal? Well, the first thing that we have to do is we're going to take the castings after they've solidified from the foundry, and they're loaded in the oven, and we anneal them, and we do a process called annealing or stress relieving. And those castings are fed through a rolling mill up to 12 times. And once we have the blank, which we don't consider it a cymbal just yet, we take that blank and we put it back in the oven. We re-anneal it again, heat it up, and then we pull it out, and we'll stick it into one of 25 different cups or cupping dies that we have. And the cup is really critical to the pitch and the volume and the overtones that are produced in a cymbal. And it's very, very cool because the blank is very, very soft. It's like a piece of dough, and we're able to take about 15 tons of pressure and just put whatever cup we feel like in the cymbal. After that happens, we stick the blank back into the oven, we anneal it one more time, get it nice and soft, and then we quench it in a tank of cold running water. And that takes the blank from a very, very brittle state where it could break like glass to a very, very ductile state, so we can cold work it. We can trim it, we can hammer it, we can shape it, we can lathe it, and we start to put the strength back into the metal so it will ring the way that we want. Okay? So the first thing that I'm going to do, you can see that I have cymbals in front of me. Obviously I don't have 25 different bells here, but I'm going to take you through the various different stages of cymbals with different cups in them. And I'm going to start over here with a cymbal that has no bell in it. This is a 14-inch quick beat bottom, or what we call a flat top, and there's no bell. And what happens when there's no bell in the cymbal? It's very, very focused when you play it, and it sounds like this. So it has really, really good stick definition, and I'm going to crash it, and you'll see that it doesn't really crash. It has a very linear type of sound. So it's more of a crang. And when you have a cymbal like this, this is very good if you want very, very good stick definition and no overtones, because the bell provides the overtones necessary for crash cymbals, but we'll get into that later. The next bell, or cup, that I'd like to talk about, this is called the K Vintage Cup, and this is a 16-inch A Custom fast crash. And on some of these cymbals you'll see that it says tuner. These are our master cymbals when we do our cymbal testing in the cymbal testing room, so I stole them for today's event. Now, the great thing about this cup is this is a newer cup in our arsenal. And I would say about 10 or 15 years ago, Armin Zildjian called me up, and he said, you know what? We don't have enough bell shapes. So he charged me with coming up with some more bell shapes, because he knew the more bell shapes that you had, the more sound opportunities. And this one came out of a very, very old K that was made in Constantinople. And as you can see, the diameter is very, very small, but is very, very high. And this works great in a fast crash, because a fast crash is really, really thin. It's paper thin, as you can see. But a small bell with this diameter and this height helps keep the high frequencies, because this cymbal wants to be low pitched. Okay, so I'm going to tap on this bell, and then I'll crash it. So I hope you can hear that. Now I'm going to crash it, and you can see that it keeps the high frequencies, and this cymbal's going to open up and shut down like a big splash. And then from that bell, we move up to what we call our small cup. And this cup is used in cymbals from 6 inches all the way up to 17 inches. It's also put in hi-hat cymbals. And it's a little bit lower, but a little bit bigger in diameter than the K vintage cup. And one of the great things that I did today for a little self-promotion of the Zildjian company is I'm bringing up to demonstrate all the new Zildjian redesigned cymbals that we brought out at Winter NAMM 2013. So I'm going to play this small cup for you now. So we're going to get a little bit more volume out of this type of crash because it's a bigger diameter cup. And you'll notice that some of the cups as we go down, the pitch will go down too because the diameter gets bigger. But we're also going to get a little bit more volume because the cup is bigger. And that's what this crash cymbal sounds like. So I'm going to go back and just recap a little bit here. We have a flat top with no bell. And then we have our K vintage. And then our small. Moving on to our next cymbal this is called our K high bell. And normally in a 17-inch thin crash or medium thin crash, we would put the small cup or the hi-hat cup in it. But during the redesign of the A's, we wanted to give these crashes just a little bit more volume, a little bit more sustain, but we wanted to maintain the high pitch of these 17-inch cymbals. So we messed around and we put in this K high bell, and this bell actually came out of a very, very old set of K Constantinople orchestral cymbals that belonged to the Cleveland Orchestra. Again, Armin believed that if we had more bell sounds, we have more sound options. So we had this cup made, and we made some orchestral cymbals out of it, and then we said, well, where else can we put this bell? So we started to mess around, and the first place other than some orchestral cymbals, we put them in the K Constantinople High Bell Ride series, which was very successful for the company for a while. And during the redesign, when we put this bell in it, we noticed that it just gave the 17-inch size cymbal just a little bit more sustain, maintaining its high frequencies in this size. So I'm going to play that bell for you now. And I'm hoping by playing the bell you can hear as the bell gets louder that the sustain of the piece of metal gets a little bit longer too. Okay? So now I'm going to crash this cymbal. And you can see that it rings out a little bit longer than the 16-inch medium thin crash with the small bell. Let me play those two bells again for you. Here's the small bell. And then the K high bell. Now moving on to our next cymbal here, it's actually a smaller diameter cymbal than the 17. It's a 16-inch rock crash, and this has our medium cup in it. Now when I started at Zildjian many years ago, we only had 5 cymbal cup shapes. We had a small and a medium and a special and a large and I think a mini cup. So this medium cup went in the medium rides and the ping rides, and also went into some crash cymbals. And the great thing about this, and the reason why it's in a rock crash and we don't put a small bell in the rock crash, is when you get up into this weight of a cymbal, you need this to project in a smaller cymbal. You have to go to a bigger bell so it will cut. So this bell sounds like this. And you can hear the volume on that and the sustain. And listen to how long this rings for. So let me play the K high bell, and then this medium cup. And I'm hoping that it's translating that you kind of hear the pitches go down the larger the bell gets. One of the great things about a 16-inch rock crash having such a large bell is it's big in diameter, but it's a little triangular, and that helps keep the high frequencies to cut through in the initial attack. But it also lets it ring and ring and ring. So you can have a smaller cymbal that will cut and project for you, where you don't have to have a really, really large one. Moving on to our 18-inch Zildjian medium thin crash. And this has what we call the special cup in it. And the reason that it's called the special cup, it was designed especially to put into 18 and 19-inch crash cymbals. Originally, the medium cup was used to put into all the crash cymbals, and they wanted something that was going to give them a little bit more sustain, a little bit more volume. So this cup was developed, and it's less triangular. It has a little bit more shoulder area here, and this is just going to give us a little bit more sustain, and this bell sounds like this. You can hear how long that rings for and how loud that is, and I'm just tapping on it. So now I'll ride it a little bit, and then I'll crash it. And that just gives us a little bit more volume to cut through in a bigger cymbal. So we go from the medium down to the special. And then the next bell shape that we have is in our 20-inch Zildjian medium thin crash. And this is called our large cup. And this cup is used in 20-inch and larger crash cymbals. Also, it's used in our 20-inch crash ride, in our 20 and 21-inch rock ride cymbals. And this is just the largest bell originally when I started here, before the next one that I'm going to show you. And this gives maximum volume, especially in a crash this size. So let me play this bell for you. And you can hear how long that rings for, and I'm just tapping it. And then when I crash this cymbal, it rings forever. So let me play the special cup and then the large bell, and you can hear the difference. You can hear the pitch go down, and that's also a function of the diameter of the cymbal too, but also the larger the bell. If we had apples to apples with the same diameter cymbal, you'd hear it as well. And I might, if we have time at the end, demonstrate that with two 18-inch cymbals. Now moving on, we have the largest bell, and this is called our Mega Bell cup, and how appropriate, we put it in the Mega Bell ride. And this cup came out, I believe it was in the early 90s when we made the Z series Mega Bell ride, and then it went into Z Custom and Z3, and now this cymbal's been folded into the A series. And this is a big 9-inch diameter bell, and it's also the same bell that's used for the large Zil bell. So I'm going to play this, and you're going to notice just by me tapping it, this piece of metal is going to ring forever. And although this is a ride cymbal, I'm going to crash it anyway so you can see when you have a very, very large bell how loud this is when you whack it. So what I'd like to do now is I'm going to go back and I'm going to kind of compare all the cymbals. I'll crash one and crash the other, so hopefully you can hear the length of sustain as longer as the bell gets larger. Okay, so I'll start over with the quick beat hi-hat. And I know this isn't a crash, but obviously we don't make a crash cymbal with no bell in it because it won't crash, as I'm about to demonstrate now. So the sound kind of attacks and just tapers off and gives us a very, very linear sound. Great for flat rides if you want to play a flat ride. And then we get into the A custom fast crash with the K vintage cup. And you can hear how long that sustains for. And as we move into the small cup from the K vintage cup, this is going to ring a little bit longer and the pitch will go down. And you get a little louder attack when the bell gets bigger. We'll go from the small cup to the K high bell. And you can really hear how much longer the 17 rings out or sustains for over the 16. And now we'll go from the thin crash to the rock crash, and you'll see how loud the medium cup rings for. And part of it's going to be the function of the weight of this cymbal. And it just keeps going. And the bell sounds. And then moving from the 16-inch rock crash with the medium cup to the 18-inch medium thin crash with the special cup, you'll see how this sounds. So that attack sound will linger longer and the sustain will keep going because of the larger bell. And the pitch goes down. And then we go from the 18-inch medium thin crash with the special bell to the large bell. And you can hear how much longer the 20 rings because it's a bigger diameter cymbal, but it has such a large bell, it just keeps going. And then we'll go from this 20 to the mega bell, and you might want to turn down your volume on your speakers when I smack this. And that's loud. So we go from the large bell The mega bell is a great bell because you can't miss it. So let me recap and give you some main takeaways from today's live event. So the cup is going to be play the role in the overtones. The larger the bell, the more series of tones or overtones you're going to get from the initial attack. Okay, so the smaller bell is going to give you less overtones than a large cup. So let me hit those two. Let me hit the 16-inch A custom fast crash, and then I'll hit the 20-inch A medium thin crash. The pitch is also affected. Smaller, taller bell, or even a big tall bell like what's in the 17-inch thin crash, is going to retain higher pitches, and the bigger the diameter cymbal, even flatter ones like we put in the the K Constantinople bounce or Renaissance ride is going to have a lower pitch. Okay, so. So you hear a lot of highs in there and some lows, and this is going to have a full range of sound in the 20-inch medium thin crash. And then the sustain. The sustain's going to be longer when you have a large bell in the cymbal. So, no bell. As I mentioned earlier, the attack goes up and it kind of dies out. You wouldn't be able to hear that if you were playing music. If you had all flat rides that you were crashing, you'd hear like a clang and that would be it. And here's the 20 again. So you get a lot more sustain. I won't hit the mega bell again because that's super loud. Now, how is this going to help you? So when you go into your drum store or your music store and you're looking for a new cymbal, especially crash cymbals, because the crash cymbals really color the music a lot, you want to make sure that you buy or try out, we want you to try out cymbals for the right application. If you're playing in a very, very loud musical situation, you might like the sound of the 16-inch A Custom Fast Crash, but it's just not going to cut for you. It's not going to do anything. It's going to be like hitting a splash. And because it has such a small bell, it's never going to give you the volume you want. It's going to peak out. So you want to go with something that's a bigger diameter. It doesn't have to be super heavy, okay? But you want something that's a little bigger in diameter, a little bit bigger bell, so it's going to cut through and project for you through the music out into the audience, okay? Once again, let me demonstrate the fast crash. So if you have music around you, you're just going to hear psh, and that'll be the end of it. Then if you play a bigger one, like an 18, a 19, or a 20, even a 22-inch crash, it's going to ring out, and you're not going to have to use as much effort. Another thing with the volume that the cup provides is you don't want to overplay the cymbal. The cymbal's only going to get so loud. And what you don't want to do is you don't want to try to make a cymbal with a smaller bell in it get louder than it was designed to do, because it never will. And what's going to happen is that you're going to hit it harder and it's not going to get any louder. And if you continue to do that, the cymbal's going to give up and it's going to fatigue and it's going to break. So you want to just go and you want to get something that you just hit it and you get a lot of volume out of it. That's what you want for your playing situation, okay? Never tighten the cymbal down, let it swing freely. You notice I don't have any wing nuts on here, and I didn't knock them off the stands, and I got them to full volume right away, okay? You want to use a glancing blow. You don't necessarily want to have your cymbals at a 90-degree angle, okay? So that's what you want to look for when you go in the store, and there's a lot of professionals there where they can help you with your needs, okay? I have some other cool things that I'd like to show. This is our small Zill bell, but this is the same bell that's in this 20-inch medium thin crash. And I want to play that, and I want to show you some other bell designs and how those sound different than a traditional curved piece of metal. So here's a small Zill bell. So we all know that sound. That's a traditional bell sound. But here at Zildjian, we like to mess around, and we have stuff that looks like this. And this is what we're calling our indent cup. We haven't brought it to market yet, but we're messing around with it in the factory. And if you remember what the small Zill bell sounded like, here's the indent cup. So it doesn't have that pure bell sound that rings out. It's got attack, and it kind of like has a bend in the note. And then we have another one that we call the penta. Some people call it the Chrysler bell. So as you can notice, it doesn't have that pure curvature in it, so it doesn't have that pure bell sound. And then we have one of my favorite new bells. This is called the Volcano Cup. This is the first cup that has come up and gone back in on itself. And we actually put this in two different cymbals that are in production right now. But let me play this one. You can hear after it starts to vibrate, it has some oscillation to it because of the way that the vibrations are going across the body of the cup. And if you play it here, it sounds like a traditional bell, but if you play on the top curve, it's very, very tight. You can, yeah, it's very, very cool. We use this bell in the ultra hammered Chinas and also the 19-inch K-Custom Hybrid Trash Smash. And I'm going to play that in a minute because I think we still have some time. So here is a 19-inch K-Custom Hybrid Crash, and this has a special cup in it. And I'm going to play this traditional cup because this is what everybody expects to be in a crash cymbal. And then I'm going to hold up the 19-inch K-Custom Hybrid Trash Smash. And for all intents and purposes, they're the same cymbal. There's a little bit more hammering on the Hybrid Trash Smash, but the bell's different. So I want you to hear, when we wanted to make a special effect, that we put this Volcano Cup in it. So actually, let me do this. I think it will be easier if I take these cymbals off and I put them up here. Okay, so here's the Trash Smash. I hope the stick's not in the way. And you can see the Volcano Cup. Let me just play those two cups. Here's the special cup that's in the Hybrid Crash. Very traditional, sounds pretty. Crash sound on this. It's very cutting. I have one. I love it. So now here's the Trash Smash, and here's the bell. And the crash sound. And this is a very white noise crash. And through experimentation, we realized that the Volcano Cup was going to activate the body of the cymbal more than kind of be separated from the body of the cymbal when you hit the bell. So you're not really getting a bell sound as much as you're activating the whole cymbal sound. Okay? And I want to demonstrate the custom crashes that I mentioned earlier, where we'll have apples to apples with the same cup size, where we have a medium cup and then a special cup and crash cymbals. And you can hear the effect of that. So here's the Custom Fast Crash, and this is a what would be considered like a paper thin crash cymbal that has a medium cup in it. And this is like an old school crash from back in the day. And then here's a regular Custom Crash, which is thin, that has that special cup in it. Let me play both of them for you. And you can really hear the pitch difference because these aren't really that much different in weight, so that's why I wanted to do apples to apples for you. Now the great thing about this fast crash, because it's thinner than the Custom Crash, we put this bell, which is a little bit more pointier. It's going to keep the high frequencies for us, which is what people want in a fast crash. So this is what this sounds like when I hit it. So we focus the overtones with this type of bell. Now when I play the 18-inch Custom Crash, you're going to notice that we're going to get a wide array of overtones, more lows in the sound, and it sounds like this. Now, before we take some questions, we want to let you know that our next event is on November 6th, and we're going to show you some really cool cymbals at that event. So I'm going to ask you to tune in, because I think you will be very, very happy with what we're going to share with you. If you tuned in late today and you'd like to see a replay, this is available on Zildjian.com. So I think I've kind of covered everything that I wanted to talk about, and now we're going to take some questions, and I'll do my best to answer your questions right now. All right, first question.
The first question is from Giannis, and he asks, can a crash cymbal be made without a cup? There is, of course, the flat ride, but does it work for a crash cymbal too?
Hi, Giannis. Thank you for the question. Actually, we've tried it where we continue to thin out the metal, but because there's no bell in it, you don't really get the variety of overtones as expected with a crash cymbal. So I don't believe anybody makes a crash cymbal where they specifically call it a crash that one would expect, because you're going to get a quick attack and it's going to die, and it's just not going to project. You need a bell in it. So no, nobody that I know of makes one.
Roy wants to know, does the lathing on the cup affect the sound of both the cup itself and the cymbal as a whole?
Sure, yes. If you have a cymbal where the cup is not lathed, you're going to have higher pitches because it's thicker in that area. Now, if you really lathe down the bell and you leave the body thicker, you get some weird sounds. You know, it's almost like you take the cymbal out of phase when you do that. And you have to be very, very careful, because at the base of the cup, that's one of the most important parts on a cymbal where the curvature starts. So if you really lathe down the bell, you can get what we call a sunken cup sound. So you got to be very careful with that. But usually we leave the bells unlathed, and that will give us a drier sound and a brighter sound depending on what type of cymbal that you're trying to make.
Thanks. David wants to know, I normally turn my china bell side down for the simple reason of not destroying so many sticks, but is there a right way to position the china, bell side up or down?
Well, the right way is however you feel is right for you. You know, most people years and years ago would play with the bell side up, but they would ride on the body of the china and sometimes accent. But if you're just using it as a special effect, I recommend you turn it upside down so you get the full effect of the flanged lip area. But however you feel like playing it is how you should play it. It's your cymbal. Go for it.
This question is from Joseph. He wants to know, what most affects the pitch of a cymbal, the height of the bell or the diameter of the bell?
Ooh. Usually it's the height of the bell. When the bell is tall, you get higher pitches with it. So this 17-inch thin crash, this bell's a little bit higher than this medium cup. So this is brighter. And then the medium cup. And the K high bell's not that much smaller in diameter, but it produces more highs in it because it's taller relative to a medium cup. So when we're looking to keep higher frequencies, especially in thinner cymbals, we'll try to go with something that's appropriate for that diameter for the sustain, but also keep the high frequencies. And that's what we did with the 16-inch A Custom Fast Crash. It's got that really, really tall bell that's tiny, because we didn't want to just take an A Custom Crash and lay that thinner to make it a fast, because the pitch goes down when the cymbal's thinner. So the taller the bell helps with the high frequencies.
Jesse is asking, I noticed the thickness of my Zill bell is much greater than the thickness of a Rides bell. What is the reasoning for this, and how does it affect the sound?
Okay, that's an excellent question. Yes, your Zill bell is about twice as thick as a comparable bell in a cymbal, okay? So here's a small Zill bell, and that sounds like this. And we're asking just this bell to vibrate. We don't have anything else assisting it other than this curvature. Now these bells are the same, but this bell is much, much thinner. But you're not just hearing the bell sound, you're also hearing the body of the cymbal. Now when it's in a rock ride or a medium ride, you're going to hear the bell sound, but the bell's getting help from the whole piece of metal. So when we did the Zill bells, we had to make it thicker because that's all you're getting is a bell, and we want it to ring out for you. That's an excellent question.
Marwin would like to know, does the cymbal's age affect its sound?
Yes. Because of the manufacturing process to produce the Zildjian Professional Series 80% copper, 20% tin, we have to do that process called quenching at the end, like I mentioned in the beginning of our live event, which softens the metal down so we can hammer it and we can shape it, and the metal's soft. Over time, the metal settles in and it rings out even more. Now, the most drastic changes happen in the first 48 hours of a cymbal's manufacture. But over time, you'll notice cymbals get easier to play and you don't have to exert as much energy to get the sound out of it. So yes, cymbals get better, just like wine, with age.
Sam wants to know, what effect does brilliant finish have compared to a non-brilliant finish?
Well, if we're comparing apples to apples, let's say we have a regular finish A, Zildjian, and then we had a brilliant finish A, Zildjian. What the buffing does is it smooths down those hills and valleys, and it should allow the vibrations in the metal to travel across the body of the cymbal linearly, I hope that's the right way to say it, and this way, quicker than with the traditional finish where the hills and valleys are deeper. Now, there's a lot of people that say that the brilliant finish makes it smoother, it makes it brighter, it makes it this, it makes it that. We originally did it to just have a shiny cymbal, but we do notice it does smooth out the sound a little bit. So that's why we offer it.
Paul would like to know, what are the best cymbal sizes for a small club gig, say 50 to 100 people?
Oh, well, it depends. You didn't mention what type of music that you're playing. So if you're only playing to 50 or 100 people, you really don't need to go probably bigger than an 18-inch cymbal for a crash. You might want to have a 16 and an 18 to color the music, maybe a 20-inch ride cymbal instead of 13 or 14-inch hi-hats. Because of the intimate setting, you don't need a lot of projection. So you can go with some smaller sizes, but it's really up to you. If you want to play bigger cymbals, you're just going to have to control the volume through how you strike them.
Kierik is asking, how is it that two exact cymbals do not sound alike? What are possible factors that make it this way?
Well, through the rolling process, each piece of metal takes each step of the process a little bit differently. And when we roll the blanks out, they're not all precise. Each one needs to hit a range because the cymbals that I like might not be the cymbals that you like, but we both like cymbals from the same series. So if you are testing a batch of, let's say, 16-inch A custom crashes or 16-inch A Zildjian medium thin crashes, they're all going to sound like they're from the same model range, but one might be a little bit higher in pitch because it might be a little bit thicker. One might be a little bit lower because it's a little bit thinner. And that's all from the rolling and the lathing process. But that's why they're never going to sound the same.
Avedis would like to know, can you explain how you get the tone of a cymbal while manufacturing?
Oh, the tone of a cymbal while we manufacture. Well, nothing is independent of each other. So, like I've been mentioning throughout this whole live event, with this fast crash, we know that this bell with this height and this diameter is going to help keep the higher frequencies in this lighter cymbal, but also the curvature might be a little bit higher than a regular standard 18-inch crash. So all these factors play a part in how the overall sound of a cymbal's going to be. So thinner cymbals always want to be lower in pitch if you're comparing them to something in the same diameter. So we'll bump up the curvature and change the bell so we give you the tonal properties that you're looking for cymbals like that.
Here's a great question from Ken. He wants to know, does the alloy affect the choice of the bell shape, size, thickness, etc.?
Sure, yes, absolutely. The 80-20 bronze or B20 bronze or the Zildjian Secret alloy allows for us to put bigger bells in it because the more tin that you put in with the copper, the more low frequencies you're going to have. But if you're looking to play or try out a ZHT or ZBT cymbal, you notice that some of those bells are going to be lower or flatter because the less tin that's in with the copper, they favor even higher frequency. So we don't want to put a really tall bell in there because then you'll get some dissonance in there and notes that are fighting. So if you have a B8 or a B12 alloy, you'll notice some of those bells are a little bit flatter than what's in the B20 bronze that we use for the professional Zildjian series cymbals. That's an excellent question.
We had a lot of similar questions to this one, but Mark summarized it best. He said, if a cymbal's cup size affects its sound, do stands, felts, and fasteners interfere with the cup and its contribution to the cymbal's ability to project volume and sustain?
Sure. You want to make sure that you have the appropriate size felt, and the cymbal stand manufacturers kind of know that you don't want a felt that's bigger in diameter than this. You don't want to take the felt that's used on a hi-hat stand underneath the bottom hi-hat cymbal and put it underneath a crash cymbal because it might dampen it a little bit. You also don't want to clamp the cymbal down with a wing nut because that's going to restrict its vibration. I think I'm answering the question. Does that sound like I'm answering the question the right way? Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Here's an interesting question from Jason. He says, has Zildjian ever experimented with varying cup sizes on hi-hats? For example, would a large cup on the bottom hat create more sustain for the pair without affecting the sound created when striking the top hat?
We have messed around with cups, and we used to make a set of 14-inch A-custom projection hi-hats. And that had a very large cup in it, kind of like our special cup. And the thing with a set of hi-hats, and I'm hoping I'm answering this question the right way, if you have two cymbals and you have them closed with your foot and you're playing it chit, 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 you're not allowing the cymbals to vibrate at all, so a larger cup's not going to make a difference. It's going to affect more the pitch. Usually the bottom cymbal's a little bit heavier than the top, and that's where you get the high chick from. But if there's a bigger bell in it, it might drop the pitch just a little bit. If you play them open like sloshy, that bottom cymbal with a larger cup will probably give you a little bit more sustain. So, but when we made the A-custom projection hats, it was more like if you were doing patterns where you're going to open up the cymbals and hit that bell because there was a lot of bell there to hit, that would kind of ring out for you. So that was our idea with those projection hi-hats, more than having them played closed.
Mike would like to know, what characteristics give a cymbal a dry sound? What about a dark sound?
Ooh, what characteristics? Repeat the question one more time. What characteristics?
What characteristics give a cymbal a dry sound? And what about the dark sound?
Oh, okay. What characteristics? Okay. A dry sound. Usually cymbals with a dry sound are unlathed. So the outer portion of the cymbal, after it's been quenched, forms an oxide on it. And we take advantage of that oxide to make the cymbal very, very dry, almost like a flat cymbal, so it's restricted in its vibrations. A lower pitch sound or a dirty sound, we might put in more of a random type of hammering. We'll have a lower curvature. We can make it thinner. We'll put a lower bell in there. Those will all contribute to those type of sounds.
Carlton is asking, what physical attributes make a crash cymbal different than a ride cymbal?
Ooh, crash cymbals are usually thinner than ride cymbals because when you have a ride cymbal, you're trying to keep the beat and keep the time going with the band. So with this Mega Bell ride, you get a very, very pointed sound, and then if I just go down to this 20-inch, although I can ride on it, it's much more washy and has sustain. So crash cymbals, you're usually hitting them and they're getting out of the way. You're accenting the music. You're in an explosion of sound. You want it to get out of the way, but with a ride cymbal, you want that sound there all the time, so your musicians around you know where the time is at. So that's primarily the difference.
Derek wants to know, when a cymbal is made and tested, how do you determine the cup is the right size for that particular cymbal?
Well, the cup is predetermined based on the sound design that we're trying to achieve. So we never have a batch of cymbals that has more than what the proper cup size is in for that cymbal. So you'd never have a batch of medium thin 16s that have a small cup or a K high bell or a K vintage cup, stuff like that. It's predetermined before we manufacture what bell goes in that particular cymbal, because we know it's going to give us that sound for that design.
Our last question for you today, Paul, is from Michel. He asks, I have heard many different views on the effects of cymbal thickness on durability. I know with proper technique, cracking is avoidable, but are thinner cymbals less durable due to being more fragile or more durable as they have more give in them?
Well, all cymbals are durable, whether they're paper thin or medium thin or heavy. It all depends on picking the right cymbal for the application, like I said a few minutes ago. If you try to get this A Custom Fast Crash 16 to do something that it wasn't designed to do, the metal's going to fatigue, it's going to break, or you're going to break your drumsticks a lot. So we try to point drummers in the direction, if you need a lot of volume, we're going to ask you to go to a larger cymbal, maybe a little bit heavier, so it takes less effort to activate it and let it ring out. Okay? If you're playing in a smaller club, like one of the other people asked about, we'll send you to a thinner cymbal, so you get the sound out and that's it, and it gets out of the way. So really, the durability is not necessarily determined by the thickness of the cymbal. It's really up to you. I've played a lot of cymbals that are well over 100 years old, and you just want to play them with care. You want to pick the right cymbals for the right application. You don't want to bash the cymbals. They cost you a lot of money, so take care of them and play them with care. And once you activate it, you're going to get the volume from that piece of metal based on what it was designed to do. Okay? Oh, and we have a winner of a crash cymbal. Okay? So I have an envelope here. And let's see, I'm going to be like Johnny Carson, the great Carmack. No? People are laughing at me. Okay? And let me see, I'll open it. We need a drum roll for a cymbal crash. And the winner is Bill Reisenbeck. And I guess you get to win the cymbal of your choice. Am I correct? Okay. So I want to remind you again, our next event is on November 6th at 4 p.m. And we're going to share with you some really, really great new stuff from Zildjian. I want to thank you for joining us today. Please watch the replay if you missed any of it, or if you just want to watch it again at Zildjian.com. Thanks for joining, and look for the next live event from the Sound Lab coming soon.